In yachting, precision is not a luxury. It is the difference between function and failure. Every weld, every joint, every engineered solution must perform, not just in theory, but at sea. Engineered Yacht Solutions delivers specialist welding, fabrication, and onboard engineering built for real-world conditions. This is craftsmanship shaped by experience, pressure, and exacting standards. Trusted by professionals who understand there is no margin for error. Engineered Yacht Solutions. Discover engineering without compromise. EYSwelding.com.
Welcome back to Yachting USA, brother.
Thanks, man.
It's good to see you, Kerry.
Awesome to be here.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I was excited that you were here today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
It was wonderful to see you too. It was like, God, you see some familiar faces, and like I was saying, we had this conversation going in Fort Lauderdale, and then we had to cut it short, and it was like, it was just kind of getting good.
It was getting to the meat of it too, yeah. Where were we at?
Well, you were talking about how your dad had visions for you to go one pathway. You got into boating through parasailing, and what I took away from what you shared with me, Kerry, was that you set a goal, and if it took you 4 years to attain that goal, you were like, I'm going to do this. And so instead of flitting around, you got into some, I think, commercial shipping of some type, before you got into yachts. And then, your pathway eventually got you to where you got noticed, picked up by Bravo, and you started down that rabbit hole into below deck.
Which in itself was bizarre. I mean, really bizarre. I don't think we kind of got into like how much I put into being a captain. And what that was, I was going to be blue collar. My dad was a builder, and I wanted to be an electrician to do something different to him. Yeah. And then we ended up on the parasailing boat, and then I did that job until the sea time for the next license was maximised. So I think it was like 90 days, as much sea time as I could use on that boat towards 365.
That's, small increments.
But it maxes out because the boat was 12 metres.
Okay.
It didn't leave the bay.
Right.
To get your Masterclass 5, which would be equal to like a 200-ton ticket, maybe, you had to have 365 days of sea time, but it couldn't all be in this one little bay.
Makes sense.
Right? Because you had to be
it's a big ocean
on that little boat.
Yeah, well, how much can you learn in just that one spot?
Yeah, so it had to be, only less than 24 metres. It was only 90 days, and then the rest had to be over 24 metres. And you could get a licence for just the bay, but I didn't want that.
Right.
So I love my day job. So I did my day job all day. And then at night time, I would do like these night runs, we'd call it, to this island close by on a larger boat. So then I would count the nighttime sea time, not the daytime sea time. And that got to a point where it was maxed out. But I liked that job too.
Okay.
So then what I would do is I would start my day job, finish it, let's say 5 or 6. My night job started at 9 o'clock at night, finished around 11. Then I'd go to a landing barge for no money that went outside of the bay. It took, I think it was like 3 hours to get to the destination and 3 hours to come back.
That's another 6 hours.
Yeah.
Leaves you with 2 hours of sleep.
But then we've got to get there and we've got to unload the boat, right? So I think I'd sleep on the way back, I think I would, but not much sleep, maybe 3 or 4 hours sleep was what I'd get. But I would do the 3 jobs to get the sea time so I could get the license so I could work anywhere in the world. And as time went on, I went to other places, different jobs around the country, and the last job I had before yachting was captain of that landing barge.
Okay.
That I used to work on for free.
Right. Think about it. Now you're getting compensated for doing it.
To get my sea time, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and it was one of those moments, like an aha moment.
Yeah.
It was pretty neat.
That is pretty neat.
Yeah.
So then segue us from commercial shipping, the sea barge, to your first gig where you're in a luxury vessel and you're now running something other than, a commercial entity. What's that look like?
Yeah, so my very first job, I had a pretty big license in Australia to be a captain. It was a Master Class 4. And I also had an engineering license, which is called an MED2. And I would be captain engineer on most of the boats that I would run.
Right.
I'm just hanging out at a mate's house, having a cuppa. And, my friends knew I wanted to get into yachting. My mentor said it was a terrible idea. He's like, don't go do that. He's like, because he was old school Admiralty guy, right? And he's actually, my mentor was on the ferries, and then he went over and managed the landing barge, and he called me in.
Okay.
And so anyway, so I'm just, he told me it's a stupid idea. I got you this job. It's an amazing opportunity you have, Kerry. Like, you deserve it, but I want to let you know that I'm taking care,
Right.
And I'm just at a mate's house, and I get this phone call, and this guy's calling me, and he goes, I heard about you, and I've got a yacht in Canada, and I want you to come and be the engineer.
All right.
And I'd never spoken to a millionaire before, so I didn't know what they sound like.
Like you and I, right? Yeah, funny.
Yeah.
Right.
And all my friends knew that I loved Canada. Everyone knew that I had this affection with the country. Like, when I was a kid, I would write to the embassy and get brochures, and then when I could pick an assignment on a country, it'd always be Canada. So I would say the two things together I thought someone was pulling my leg.
There you go.
And the owner was Aussie, and I'm kind of being careful because if I fall into, all my mates would give me a hard time for life, right? So I didn't want to get caught. I didn't want to get sucked in, but I didn't want to miss out.
Told you not to do it.
I didn't want to miss out on the job,
right?
But I don't want to be sucked in if it's a false job, right? If it's a bunch of buddies next door laughing on a phone. And eventually the guy said, look, I'm not pulling your leg. It's a real job. Can you get here? And 2 weeks later, I'm in Canada.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that was my...
So you came on board as an engineer?
Came on board as an engineer, yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
But that's usually its own pathway. I talked to captains who started as, deckhands, who become first mate, chief officer, and then captain. Mm-hmm. Rarely do you hear about the engineers moving into the wheelhouse. They kind of leave the engineers in the back end of the boat, take care of the dirty stuff. Well,
the thing is, I was already an established captain in the commercial world.
Okay, yeah.
So that's a little different.
You had a ticket already.
So I did go through the process from deckhand. I mean, I've done, up until then, I've been a deckhand.
Right.
I've been a steward. I've been a cook.
All right.
I've been a captain. I've been a dive boat captain. I've been a dredge operator. I've been a tugboat captain, landing barge, a water taxi.
That's pretty diverse.
I do fishing charters,
right.
sport fish boats, glass bottom boat driver on the, I've done so many things. So I came in as engineer, and what was cool about this boat is it was called Southern Cross 2.
Okay.
Southern Cross 2 was the chase boat in 1983 when Australia won the America's Cup, which was a pretty big deal.
Yeah, you think? Well, I remember that clearly. Yes.
Pretty big deal. So my very first yacht to have that heritage, the guy, Alan Bond, didn't own it anymore, but it was kind of cool. That was my first yacht. It was an Australian-built boat.
Yeah, didn't Ted Turner lose that race to the Aussies?
No, it was not Ted Turner. It was...
Sorry, Ted.
Yeah, not you, mate. You're okay. That wasn't Ted. It was someone else.
Okay.
But it was... Because it was in Newport was the race.
Right.
That's where the race was at. I'm pretty sure it was a New York Yacht Club that lost it.
Yeah.
Which was like...
It was brutal.
Hadn't been lost in how long?
Yeah, I know. It's like unheard of.
Unheard of, right? And that's because you guys kept changing the rules, so it'd work out for you. And we found a way around it.
You got innovative.
But the most funniest thing, if you Google it, like Australian Prime Minister, America's Cup win, and you've got our Prime Minister, Bob Hawke, and he's there and he's got a beer in his hand. He's at an event and he's told that we won. And he's like this, and he was known that he could scull a beer. And he's like, tomorrow's a public holiday. We won, we beat the Yanks. And then A walks over to him and goes, you can't say that. And he's like, all right, well, tomorrow's not a public holiday. I was told that. But if your boss sacks you tomorrow, he's a bum. So it's so Aussie.
I love that.
It's just so,
You got to be a politician.
Yeah, but he was known like at a horse race. He'd like scull a beer. He was just... Yeah,
he's a people's person.
Yeah, so that was my introduction into yachting, and it was Vancouver Island. We did a big refit. We repowered the boat, new generators, new transmissions, the whole thing.
A beautiful place to do it too.
Yeah, gorgeous. We're in Philbrooks in Vancouver Island, in Victoria, Sydney, and that was super neat. And we got going, and we brought the boat down the west coast of North America through the Panama Canal. And up to Boston.
All right.
And the idea was the boat was going to go across the Atlantic and go all through Europe and eventually make its way to Australia.
Wow. Almost a circumnavigation then.
Yeah, that was the plan. But then in Boston, I was enjoying the local people a little too much, and I got in trouble and I got fired.
Ouch.
Yeah, but just lucky for me, on the way around, I'd made contacts, and I think a few weeks later, I was in Anacortes near Seattle.
I love Anacortes.
And I was the mate unofficial engineer of a brand new boat built by Northern Marine.
Bud Lemieux's company.
Sorry?
Bud Lemieux. That was
Yes, Bud, yes.
Yeah, he's a friend of mine. I supplied a lot of equipment to Northern Marine and spent many a day up in Anacortes. Gorgeous up there.
Yeah, awesome, man. Yeah.
Cool boat, too. Good ocean boat.
We were the first yacht that they built because everything else was, the trawler design.
Right, yeah.
So we were the very first one, 130, excellent boat. I mean, it was fantastic, really good boat.
Yeah.
And so I came on there as the mate, and I just wanted to learn how to, understand the industry. It's different. Mm-hmm. And I think I was there 4 years. The owner was amazing. And
that's its own education.
It was, yeah. So that's why I stayed so long. It was just a good owner. Did I want to be the captain? Yeah, I did. But I'm like, he couldn't teach me seamanship, but he could teach me how the finer things of service. Even little things down to, which I wouldn't have thought of before, is how you berth a vessel for guest enjoyment. Where I'll be like, okay, the best way, with weather coming, I'm going to stern in and have the bow out to the bay.
Right.
No, we want to see the bay. We don't want to stare at the dock.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
But it all changes to the owner, right? So years later, I was on a boat and they wanted to be seen all the time. So now, so now we stern to,
Right,
so
right.
You get to learn what your owner wants.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah.
Right. Wow. And you mentioned that, you weren't getting the seamanship part, but from the sound of all of your previous experience, you got the seamanship covered, right?
Yeah.
It's the finer nuances of service and the white boat type of thing that.
Yes.
Right. Which is so important.
Yeah.
So how does that translate then to having a network like Bravo reach out and say, hey, we want a captain and we want to do something different?
Yes.
You've heard all the conversations about that, so we don't need to cover that ground so much, but it is interesting that you get into that space. Mm-hmm. What does it look like, and how does that work with what you've been doing or what the typical captain role looks like?
So I never wanted to be on TV. There was never anything I wanted to do, and if I was to say I was a huge fan of the show, I'd be lying.
Fair enough.
I was very much initially yachting's about not showing what happens below deck.
Right,
Yachting's about, bringing in an amazing meal or pulling off an incredible experience without seeing the sweat and blood and tears that created it, right?
That's right. How the sausage is being made.
Exactly. We would say in Australia, lifting the skirt. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so I wasn't a massive fan at all. And I had some friends that went on the show, and they did their thing and so forth. And the way it started for me is, my marriage broke down. I went into severe depression. I gave up yachting. The biggest boat I run was 290, and I gave everything up to work on myself, get my head straight. Mm-hmm. I was even painting houses in Palm Beach. And then when I started getting my head back together, I took on a job, like a really small boat. It was just like a 45-foot boat during COVID, which was amazing, where, we're just tearing around Florida and the Bahamas during COVID. It was pretty cool.
It was a cool time.
Yeah, but I wanted to save my marriage, and my wife, she had been unfaithful, but I still wanted to get past it for the kids.
Right.
But she just wasn't in sound mind, and she had her narrative had flipped in her head, and I'd come from being like a controlling husband to a submissive husband. So she filled the void of where I was.
She had to take on your masculine energy.
Yeah. And then so she brought up all this, 10 years of frustration, right? So here I am trying to be subservient and I get it, let's work through this. I want this to work. And then her narrative to her work friends would support whatever decision she was making. So I haven't told the story before because out of respect for my ex-girlfriend at the time, and that'll be clearer in a second. So I remember always talking to my friend that was on below deck, and all her friends thought it was really cool. And I didn't think much of it. And I actually applied for below deck, to get my wife's attention.
How'd that work?
Well, let's just take a breath and think about that. I haven't really thought of to depth. Mm-hmm. I mentioned to a friend of mine a week ago, a guy I've known for a long time, but we haven't connected until that night. And he's like, hang on a second here. you went on, I mean, not just to get her attention, you went on the biggest show on TV, you know.
Right.
The number one franchise and the captain, like of all the things you could do to get, I mean, he's like, that's incredible. And I'm like, at the time, man, I just wanted to keep my family.
Right.
And that's the reason I applied, was so that her friends would see me on TV and say, why wouldn't you give him a shot?
I love it.
You know, he really wants, like, he wants to be with you.
Right. That's,
are you crazy?
That's your man.
You know, and that's why I applied for the show. But things take time, right? Interviews, and then COVID happened, and it took time until we started filming, and I missed the boat. So by the time I started filming, I was divorced.
Okay.
And I was in a new relationship.
All right.
That's why I haven't told the story that way.
Right.
I don't, you know what I mean? But then I've got there, and I'm in Norway, and I've arrived, and I'm like, why am I here? Like, I'm here because for my ex-wife.
Right. And that doesn't resonate anymore because it's not there anymore.
Yeah. And then I looked around, I saw how beautiful the place was, and I'm like, well, I'm here now.
Okay. Absolutely.
You know, let's go.
Yeah.
Let's do that. So
how many seasons did you do with Below Deck?
So I've done 3 seasons. I did Below Deck Adventure was the first one in Norway, and they didn't pick that up another season. And then they needed a replacement for Lee. So 2 years later, they called me up. I didn't apply for that one. They called me and said, hey, would you like to take over from Lee? And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, this is the man, right?
Captain Lee,
you know, and oh my God, I can't believe that you're asking me to, of all the captains that are out there,
right.
why would you ask me to do that? And I felt very, grateful and gracious for that opportunity. And I've done 2 seasons since then, have been put on TV, and then we have another season upcoming. So,
awesome.
So yeah.
I like that's a great story.
Yeah.
So I'll leave the whole conversation about what really happens on Below Deck for others. It's interesting, but it's not. Some other people like to get into that. I'm curious really about you went through a really hard time and struggled with depression. Mm-hmm. What was your salvation? What did you do? And I say this in the context of having dealt with my own PTSD through my own loss in my life, and having to navigate those waters.
Yes.
And I talk about that to those who want to listen because I think it's important. And so when you bring up the fact that, depression, you're grieving a loss, and the grief is heavy because the love was so heavy.
Yes.
And that's the thing that took me a little bit of time to connect to, is why does it fucking hurt so badly? And then you realize it's because the love is so intense.
Yeah.
And so how does a man wake up one morning and go, okay, this is where I'm at. I don't want to be in this space. How do you fix it? How do you change it?
Mm-hmm. It's a great question. Like for me, I didn't sleep for a couple of days. Mm-hmm. And, what is when I found out that she'd been unfaithful was what hit me. And then you have a movie in your head of your life. Everything is gone. Everything that you make up these stories of just the family broken, and it's overwhelming. Mm-hmm. And the first thing I did was I cut alcohol straight away, like instantly. I couldn't sleep, I couldn't eat. I just, as it was. And I knew that wasn't going to help me.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't.
And I started exercising straight away. Good. I was up in the Hamptons when I found out.
All right.
And I sought a support system.
Good.
Yeah. Which is very important. Actually, my crew helped me so much. Like, it was unbelievable. Like, I had a yogi. One of my crew was a bit of a yogi. I'm like, teach me meditation.
Second family.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, like teach me meditation. And then, she showed me a bit, and I thought meditation would take my mind away from my problems. Well, I found out it's quite the opposite.
It is.
So that's a lot to lean into.
Yep.
And I just I don't know what part of me decided to take that path versus drinking and blaming the world.
Yeah.
I just took accountability. I dug deep. I wanted to find out. I still wanted to save the relationship. What do I got to do to save it? Therapy. I got on medication because I needed it, and I wasn't shy that I needed the medication. And I think it's very important. It's there for a good reason.
Right.
So, I wanted antidepressants. But at the same time, I'd have like Xanax to help me through times, which is like an instant kind of help.
Right.
But I learned, look, once the other pills had helped and got my system and got caught up, I really would back off the Xanax and kind of learn to feel what's going on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's there for a reason, right? It's a break glass and it's there for a reason, but I would then start learning about my mind and understanding. Started doing self-development courses and understanding how the brain works, and I would do these different retreats to try to, just recalibrate everything, because, as you know, your whole world has changed and you didn't expect it to happen.
Yeah.
And I internalized, and to be honest,
we all, I think, do that.
Yeah, and not blame the world, but to be honest, my healing, I'm still healing, and
you will be.
I will, yeah,
absolutely.
And I if I look back at things, I thought I was more healed than what I was when I started my next relationship. Mm-hmm. And maybe in a year or two I'll be ready to talk about that one. But so history, put it this way, history repeated itself. So I got to kind of look at what in me attracted that situation.
Right.
Yeah. And then, but also the thing I did too, mate, was I changed my mindset where I didn't want to be the smartest man in the room anymore. I want to be around people that I could learn from.
There's wisdom in that. Yeah. You put your ego aside a little bit, and then put yourself in a place where others can, bring something to you. And I think there's huge amount of value in that.
My ego, I buried that. And the needle went too far. Like I went on, I call the Captain Kerry apology tour. And I think of all the crew members I didn't have compassion for, when they needed me to. And, I look back at, exit interview, I would just, if I defy you or you were leaving for a reason that I didn't think was good enough, I would let you know you let me down. Yeah. Like you would leave feeling like shit.
That's human nature, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah. The captain and how dare you leave my command? That's, unacceptable.
Yeah, unless it was a good reason, but there really was never a good reason, all right? And there's people that really gel with my style of captaining, but there's a lot more that didn't.
Yeah, no, I get that.
So I actually went out of my way to apologize to people.
That's strong. That is huge. Yeah. And that is the self-work that we do. And I totally understand that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I took a slightly different pathway. I got in with some very good friends who helped me through some hard times and got introduced to some plant-based medicine work that amazingly set things more clear. Talk about the way the brain works and how we think and, how we get in this rut. And so I've had so many conversations with people that have gone through trauma, whether it's divorce or death, major losses. Sometimes, even in business, you're so connected to the outcome of your business, and all of a sudden it doesn't work that way, or it fails. It can be devastating. And so I found that therapy has been fantastic because it's not an ongoing everyday type of thing. It's something you do, and then you integrate, and maybe you go back to it months later, and you integrate from that, and you create clarity in almost everything. And so I'm becoming more comfortable talking about that because I think there's so many people that benefit from understanding different pathways you can take for healing. And that's what we really want. If you have experienced great loss, then you need great healing.
Absolutely.
And sometimes it's just two buds having conversation. You can sit down and talk and get vulnerable with each other and be real about what's going on, hold each other accountable, give each other a hug at the end of it. What I've learned is that some of these podcasts I do where we go down these rabbit holes, or in some of the things that I'll put out there in my social media, like a 3 or 4 minute little monologue talking about grief or talking about whatever.
Yep.
Being vulnerable.
Yes.
The feedback I get is, oh my God, Rick, more.
Yeah.
Would you give me more?
Yeah.
Well, I need to hear this. I need to hear more of this. I was walking the docks in the Palm Beach Boat Show. I had 3 people from 3 different parts of the world come up and say, love what you're doing. Please don't stop.
Yeah.
The feedback is like, no, it's generous, you know.
Yeah. You're getting the conversation started, and that's the
right.
We've got similar paths. I've started Mental Health Mondays, and I don't know if you've seen that at all.
No, I'd like to see it.
Yes, every Monday I do a post, Mental Health Mondays, and I film it when I'm in a bad headspace.
Okay.
And I talk about my tools I use to get out of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's it's short. It might be, I might talk about pausing. Like, you just pause. Like, you don't have to make a decision right now.
Right.
And things will pass, or just get out, go for a walk. And I've been doing it for the last couple of years, and I just haven't. I don't have my equipment, and when I think about it, and I was in Beijing a few weeks ago, and I was chatting with someone there that knows me, and it was a charter guest for my first season. That's why I was there, and I'm talking. She said, "Why don't you do that?" I said, "You're right, I should." I went back to my hotel room, put my iPhone and put some things behind it to hold it in place. I had no mics, nothing, and I just pressed record.
Yeah, I've done that.
And I said, "Welcome to Melted Earth Mondays." I said, "You can come on a journey with me. Every Monday I'm going to release a different one, and let's get the conversation started." And we show we're vulnerable,
right?
Which then allows other people to access that too.
That's right.
And it's. I don't do it in a way that is sad. I do it in a way that is inspiring.
Good.
And I get people messaging me, I needed that today.
Yep.
Same kind of thing, right?
When I started, I thought maybe if I'm helping one person, then it's worth it.
Yeah.
And then I get dozens of people feeding back going, thank you. Mm-hmm. And it's like, it's not one person, it's a lot of one persons.
It's a lot and then that one person, everyone around them feels that change in them, that energy change. So you're helping those people. Or they'll
repost what I put out there.
Yeah.
And that's when you really know it's like, okay, it's multiplying, it's organically growing in its content. So no, people that know me, and I love what I do in the yachting space and Yachting International Radio, Rhea has been a wonderful producer. She's very supportive of these conversations. And I tell people they're not for everybody, but they're for people that need it. And I truly believe that people that need it hear it when they need to hear it.
I agree. I've had a lot of trauma, and more I talk about I was molested as a child and everything that come behind that, and then what you feel is safe and what's making me make certain decisions that put me in a relationship status with a certain person that is not healthy for me.
Right.
You know what I mean? And why do I keep doing it? And what the doctor was telling me, and I love about it, and what you're talking about too, is these experiences made me who I am today.
That's right.
I am a product of those experiences.
Right.
We don't want to change that. What we want to do is you are who you are today because of your experiences, but we want you to be that person without the baggage.
Right.
So you can get in there, look at it, identify what my attachment style is because of those life experiences, and now I can have a new relationship with that experience.
And your path has put you into the public domain to where tens of thousands of people hear your voice, maybe millions even.
Millions. I mean, just in the US, each episode there's millions there, and then it's broadcast all over the world, and it's on airplanes, and it's
exactly.
It's everywhere. Yeah.
What I've learned is the more I've done this, the more I've attracted way more than I've repelled.
Yes.
And I think that is the beauty in this, that we are able to use our experiences, put it out there, and let other people receive it and figure out what to do with it. But know that, holy shit, this guy Kerry, he's had such a history, such a challenging life.
Yeah.
Rick has gone through all of that, and look at these guys.
Yeah.
They seem happy.
Yeah.
So that, I think, gives hope to people that are hopeless, that they can't come out of their funk or they can't get through this hard time they're going through.
Yes.
That, you know what, you can.
You can, and that's why we can be vulnerable about where we were vulnerable and honest of where we were at certain points. And someone out there is in that exact same place. You can see there is a way out. And what's more important is teaching those tools on how to get out of that funk.
Yeah.
And a big thing is you can't think your way out of it. You know what I mean? You can't think your way out of where you're at. We could do a deep dive on how, recognize what your body's doing and, your nervous system and your sympathetic nervous system and what's going on, and then where the chemicals are going in your brain and where you think from the back of your head, and nothing good comes from that other than running away from a bear.
Right.
I don't like using the word broken or fucked in the head. It's better it's just you're a product of what's happened.
Yeah, exactly right.
And that's just and you are you, and you respond to things a certain way because that is your world, and your world is real. And when you get to a place where you can start recognizing what the body's doing, and you start feeling tight in the chest, you know, and you can identify what that means to you, then you can kind of look at like, okay, this is how I feel right now. But the emotion there isn't to teach you what to do, it's to teach you where you are.
Right.
So if you realize that you're in a fear-based state, you realize you're highly stressed,
Yeah.
most likely you're using the back of your brain to do the thinking, and everything it's thinking is bullshit right now.
Yeah, that's the reptilian side of your brain, the fight or flight part of it.
Exactly, right. And then, which has a purpose, but maybe not right now.
That's right.
In this situation. So, you know, learning by breathing exercises and you know, a thought can only last 90 seconds unless you fuel it, right? So you get yourself in that fear-based state, you start freaking out, you start getting mad about what's just happened. And if you can do some breathing exercises that take your mind off it for 90 seconds, then it's stopped. And now the thought process comes back to the front of the brain.
That's right.
But then 2 seconds later, it goes back. And then you feel it in the chest and you go, okay, I want to do my breathing cycle.
Go back into that breathing.
And then you can start getting
You just brought up something that's so important, and the breathing is so essential to understand what that is and how it works.
Wild, huh?
It is. And that's part of my journey as well, is to get into breath work and to get into the opportunity when you feel that tightness going up and you know that it's the bad thing that's happening, to be able to go,
yeah.
And just that enough is the pause that you need to start re-regulating.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a shame. It's taken me a freaking lifetime to get to the point where I could understand and integrate that into how I deal day to day. But
got it now.
You get there, right?
You got it now, and you're able to tell people about it.
That's right. I love it. So, Kerry, we have to make a commitment to each other, brother, that in the months and years to come, we check in and we see how we're doing.
Yeah, man.
And as we get more comfortable in these conversations, you know, these conversations continue, because I think there's a lot of people who will listen to this and will greatly benefit. Yeah.
Thanks for having me on, mate. Awesome.
Kerry, what a treat to reconnect and spend this Saturday afternoon in Miami with you, brother.
Yeah.
This is good. So until next time, we're out of here.
See ya.
If your brand belongs in the heart of the yachting world, this is where it happens. Yachting International Radio reaches over 1 million yachting professionals and enthusiasts every month, with 77 million impressions, 220,000 social followers, and 74,000 podcast subscribers. Our hosts are insiders, crew, captains, CEOs, trusted voices shaping the industry. This is targeted, high-impact advertising in a luxury niche. Visit yachtinginternationalradio.com/advertise. Your audience is already listening.